Assalamu alaikum and welcome. My name is Salman and I'm your weekly host for what, in my view, are the most exciting news that happened in the Pakistani political scene over the past 7 days. I believe Pakistan is going through massive transformation and it's really exciting times to be a Pakistani. So, this is my contribution, this is my thoughts and my interpretation of events that took place in the past 7 days. And on with the show. So, for my fifth top news, which is about cricket. Now, if you were to search online on the Pakistani media, you would it would seem like cricket is all that's happened over the past 7 days. And as someone who's not a big fan of cricket, or rather the T20 format of the cricket, I was just a bit like, okay, that's good, but let's move on. So, anyways, it's something I want to share. So the PSL, which is the Pakistani Super League, um, started this week, and it finally brings the international cricket back into Pakistan, and it's taken quite a few years to get here, and that's the reason. That's perhaps the main reason why everyone's so excited about this. It means that Pakistan gets exposure, and finally, after a long time, international players are willing to come to Pakistan and play the sport here, alongside the fact that it brings some entertainment to the local people, which is all good news. But not the most exciting news for me, to be honest. On this note, I'll move on to my fourth top news. My fourth top story is about the resignation of Anwar Mansoor, the Attorney General of Pakistan. Now, I have to say from the get go that it didn't come as a surprise to me. I felt like his performance over the past many weeks has been below the standard. It clearly showed a man who was struggling with the workload that existed, and he's a very smart man. And there's certain facts which took me by surprise when I actually came across them when I was doing some research on Anwar Mansoor and his background. Um, Regardless, I think he was really struggling with the job, and there is so much happening um, with the state versus the various cases that are in the courts at the moment. Um, One practice that is just so common nowadays is that everyone who's not happy with the government's decision, they immediately go to the court, whether it's the corrupt mafia of sheriffs and their assistants, like the ex-finance minister, or other people who are not happy with the government's decision to increase the prices or impose taxes or whatever it is. And for a while, I wasn't happy with Anwar Mansoor's performance as an attorney general, and then it turns out that there was a rift that kept on growing between the attorney general Anwar Mansoor and the Minister for Law, Farooq Naseem. And as if you have listened to my previous sessions, you probably know that I have an immense amount of respect for the intelligence of Farooq Naseem, for the way he communicates, for his ability to bring people to his level of understanding and his communication styles, to be honest. And now it turns out that there was this rift growing between Anwar Mansoor and Farooq Naseem, and the both parties were not getting along very well. And eventually, it led to this, where they both were like not happy with this, and it led to one party requesting the other party to resign, and eventually he had to. So it's really sad, and I just wanted to state some things. I mean, by all means, he's a very intelligent fella, and frankly, you have to be if you're going to be the Attorney General of the country. Um, and it came as a surprise to me that Anwar Mansoor previously served in the war in the 1970s, and yeah, he's quite an accomplished fellow. He actually was in the army, and he was designated as a captain. So, mashallah, the man has done lots of things, and it's unfortunate that his political career or his stint within the government came to such. But I'm sure he's got a bright future, and I hope he keeps on trying his best for the country. And he did go on to have a meeting with the prime minister. I think it was on Friday, and I'm sure the prime minister assured him, and there was some confidence building measures taken between the two parties. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this story, and I'll be moving on to my next story next. So for my third top news is the visit of the Secretary General of United Nations, Antonio Guterres, who's from Portugal originally, and it was actually quite surprising to me was that he was previously a prime minister of Portugal. So clearly a man who's accomplished quite a bit. And what was so heartening for me is just how welcomed he felt. He mentioned in his interviews that he had been to Pakistan quite a few times before he became the Secretary General, and he had such fond memories, and he has so much respect for Pakistan, its culture, and its contribution towards the United Nations. He met with the Prime Minister Imran Khan, and he also met with Chief of Army Bajwa, and yeah, he got to meet with the Afghan refugees who. I guess I should do a separate podcast on my views, but I don't believe that these are refugees anymore. They are just as Pakistani as the rest of us. These 3 million odd individuals, they've been in Pakistan for 40 years. Some of them have never seen their original homeland. They were born and brought up in Pakistan. They married, they had kids in Pakistan. So who are we to send them back? And it's my firm belief that in Islam there is no such border. All of us are Muslims. We all are brothers and sisters, and we have the right to go wherever we want, to live wherever we want. It is not our borders that define us. But anyways, coming back to the point, um, it was a wonderful visit, and like I said, he left in really good spirits, and knowing that Pakistan is and continues to make its contribution, whether it's towards the climate change or the refugees or um, making contribution with its forces towards the peacekeeping efforts of the UN. So yeah, I was really chuffed, and I was really pleased by the whole. So to be honest, I've got so many exciting news this week that it's really hard to bring it down to top 5. And my number 2 story could have easily been the number 1 story. Uh, but but I think the number 1 story merits its place, not to take anything away from the number 2 story, which is that the Prime Minister Imran Khan was in Mianwali for the tree plantation drive, and there were some really fascinating stats and figures that were shared with the public, and it's highly encouraging. This is so dear and close to me, this drive, and I think we all need to do. Every person across the, not just Pakistan, across the globe, needs to take the initiative for this. So we all know that the government has taken this insanely ambitious target, which I won't give my opinion, but inshallah it's achievable. But the government has set as part of its manifesto that they're going to plant 10 billion trees across Pakistan in the next 5 years. That's twice the target they had for KPK, and it does require a huge mobilization of resources, coordination, etc. And so what they've done, some of the figures they shared was that uh, over the past year and a half, or almost 2 years now that the government has been in power, um, they've planted 25 crore trees. So that's round about 250 million trees in the past 2 years, which is super impressive. But that's also slow. If they're going to go for their 10 billion trees in the next 5 years target. So, um, however, things are moving in the right direction, and this spring they're planting another 250 million, and by this time next year they hope to have achieved their first billion trees target. And what was also said was, and this is highly encouraging, is that all of this is being tracked by independent verifiers and independent organizations that are keeping track of Pakistan being, um, well, if there is such a word, as greenified. And so, inshallah, we can rest assured that this is being done correctly and it is being monitored and reviewed from time to time. And here's some fascinating another figure that took me by surprise. So the British, during their rule over the subcontinent, they did some really good things as well. I mean, they did some really bad things, but among the good things was that they set aside 20,000 acres of land um, near around Mianwali for forestation, and that had come or that had shrunk to only 2 to 2.5 thousand acres as of today or last year. So that's 10 times reduction. That's really sad, and that just goes to show just how things were just falling apart in our country. And so the Imran Khan's government has set a target of increasing that 2,000 to 10,000 acres over the next few years, and that's highly ambitious, and inshallah they'll achieve it. So super positive news, and I'm just so excited. I'm going to Pakistan and I cannot wait to visit these places just to see for myself just what's happening. Well, there won't be much to see at the moment because they'll be planting and there'll be little shrubs and stuff at the moment, but in a few years I think it will be simply magical. My top news of the week is actually made of two news. So I had to shrink this down, and I just thought both of them are just so top class, so encouraging, so exciting, so positive that I'll just sum them up in my top news of the week. I know that's cheating, but hey, I said the rules, right? So, my top news of the week is that Imran Khan inaugurated multiple programs, and this lady, Sania Nishta, she's doing such a wonderful job. This is the same lady who did some data analytics on the Benazir Income Support Program, which has been renamed recently to Ahsaas, and she discovered that there were 800,000 illegal withdrawers, and these included some really rich bureaucrats and people who were flying abroad for their travels and stuff, and yet they were withdrawing from this initiative, which was meant to be for the poor among the poor. So she's doing amazing work, and uh, this was so yesterday the Prime Minister and Sania Nishta, they had another conference about the Ehsas Amdan program, whereby the government is going to give, and I really love this, frankly. What the government intends to do is that the government is going to give chickens, cows, you know, these animals to the very poor, so they can sustain themselves and eventually start, um, you know, selling the products or the byproducts from all of this, from the cows and the buffaloes and the chicken and the goats and everything. They can, we know that pre in in the in the history, this is how people used to draw their living, and by giving them these tools, they can first of all sustain themselves, inshallah eat healthy food, and also when they are self-sufficient they can start selling this in the market. And we all need milk, we all need healthy chicken and milk products and etc. So I'm sure this is a wonderful initiative and highly encouraging. Now, the second thing, which is again part of this news, is that the Prime Minister today he attended the Namal convocation, and again, so encouraging to hear the Prime Minister share his story about where they came from. A minister from UAE came to attend this this conference, and he had very encouraging things to say about Pakistan and how things are moving in the right direction in Pakistan. Um, just overall, such a positive news, and Alhamdulillah, I've been a donor to Namo for a while now. So I think, well, actually, I haven't given in a few months. Inshallah, I look forward to contributing again, because what better gift to give to others than education? And this institute is it really is something. So well done to Imran Khan, and well done to the government, and well done to the people of Pakistan and the students. And that is it from me for this week. Till next week.